Greetings, I am Rob Chapman from Chapman Guitars, and today it is my wondrous pleasure to teach you the entirety of Bleed the Light from my album Bare Bones, available on iTunes. I'll take you through the tune step by step, show you the scales I use, show you the techniques I incorporate into the tune, and if you get a little bit stuck, don't worry, because I'm going to be giving you the full tablature for the entire tune. And as well as that, you can get a backing track if you sign up to my mailing list, which is here. So let's begin, and the first thing is that I'm tuned to E flat, and then I've dropped this string here down to a C sharp. So here are your tuning notes. Love the E flat tuning. It gives you a little bit more softness on the strings. You can use thicker strings. I don't know, there's something about it that just makes me feel really badass when I'm using it. So let's continue with the tune Bleed the Light by myself, Rob Chapman. Now Bleed incorporates hybrid picking, a little bit of sweep picking, some legato skills, some blues licks. It's a real smorgasbord of technique, a cornucopia of rock techniques, if you will. And the intro riff is a hybrid picked concept down here. Let me play it to you first of all, then I'll teach you my guitar. So you're going to have to get used to using these two fingers and a plectrum at the same time. And the best way to do that is to practice this riff really slowly, the first little part. So you've got the first chord, refer to your tablature for this, but essentially it's an open bass string and then a power chord at the 5th fret. Bring the whole thing back a tone and bring the first finger on top of that D string, so your chord is now this. I think that sounds really cool, the moving bass note. And here comes the hybrid part, and you can repeat this as a pattern, as an exercise. So what I've got there is an open C sharp, and I'm going to hammer down my 3rd finger. It's a series of picks or plucks and then hammers. And then the same thing on the A string, and then the D string. That was just open, so you can just repeat that. This is great for synchronizing practice. You're synchronizing the plucking and the picking with the hammer on. Once you've managed that, by the way, you'll notice that I'm spacing this with a rhythmical slap on the bass strings. I just like the feel of that. It keeps my pace going. So. And I'm just using like a leopard's paw type arrangement here, and very gently meeting the strings. So now I'm just going to pick this string and slide it. Now I've plucked the A string and hammered down with my 1st finger. So again I'm doing the plucking and then the hammering. So pick and slide, pluck, hammer, and now my 1st finger is very slightly muting the D string, and I'm going to try and get kind of a percussive harmonic using the pluck of my 3rd finger. Hear that? That's what I'm after. So you're going to go pick slide, pick hammer, and then just pluck, and you get that percussive clucking harmonic sound, and the whole thing sounds like this. Now from here, all we do is pull off the 1st finger, no picking or plucking, just pull off, and then we're going to go 3-2 open on the D string. That's pick, pull, pull. So you get. fairly complex, it's definitely intermediate, it's not really a beginner type lick, but if you are a beginner, don't worry, don't panic, you've got the tablature to hand, you can take it nice and slow, break it into separate sections and attack it that way. Don't just dive head in and go, I can't play this, therefore I won't. Just look at it as an exercise and treat it that way. So once you've done the hybrid part, we got this little do-do-do-do-wee part. And it's really simple. All I'm doing, I'll chord tap again, is I'm hitting the open C sharp, I'm going 2nd fret, bending it, a semitone. So once it's up there, I'm not going to release it yet, I'm going to pluck the open D string, and then I'm going to release it back and then pull off to open, so you get... I'll do that again for you. Then you go for a stinger, right, that's what I call them, I don't know what they're called really. Right up here, this is the 13th fret, and then the 10th fret on the B and the E. And what I tend to do here is use my thumb, the side of my thumb, and rest it on all of these idle strings above the B and E strings, so that you can really give it some vibrato, I went American there for you, vibrato, with that dial, which is actually quite a hard thing to do, so practice that too. Normally when I hear people using a stinger, they just bend it up and leave it there. It sounds way more exciting if you leave one note still and bend the other one, because you get all those nice harmonics coming out, you get the dissonance flying at you. So rather than just doing this, try instead to do this. It sounds way more rock. So that intro riff repeats again. And now I'm full volume and I've got rid of the chord tap and I'm full humbucked up. I get to that point, there's a little octave slide. So what I'm doing is making an octave shape here. Follow your tablature. This is the 5th fret, and I'm going to go. So it's a hit, a slide, slide back, hit. So down, slide up, slide back, up. And I'm going to go chuck, gut, so down, up, percussive mute, I'm muting the strings with my hand, and then down to a power chord here, C. So the whole thing sounds like this. That's really just an insert into the main intro riff to keep it from going boring. I try and do things once and never the same way twice, otherwise the listener gets, bored. So far, altogether you've got this. That's the end of the intro. Time for some coffee. Oh, sweet dark mother. And now it is the time for the lead. Before I do that, why don't I show you the rhythm underneath it so that you have an idea of the framework you're working within. Essentially, we're using D major and we're using A minor. But rather than just playing the chords, when I recorded the tune, I thought, well, I'll funk it up a little bit and I'll use some hybrid picking and kind of make it an interesting rhythmical feature. So the D major chord is actually played like this. And then the A minor chord is played like this. And then back to D. So that's 2 picks and then a pluck from the 3rd, and I'm hammering down again. The pluck and the hammer happens a lot in my music. And then I'm going to go pluck here on the 5th fret D. I'm going to mute percussively this open bass string, and then go down a semitone and do the 4th fret pluck. And then I'm going to go on the A string, so you get. that's D major dealt with. So here comes A minor. So we're going to now use the A string as our base of operations. So same beginning as the previous one, the same theme. So it's the double chug on the open A. So then I'm plucking and hammering, which happens a lot in my music, from the 5th to 7th on the D. Then I'm going to come up to the G, and I'm going to hit this 5th fret, and I'm going to use my first finger and pull off to the open string, and then come back up to the D. So I'm using that open string to give me the note that I was after. It's really cool, whenever you can, to use open strings. It just gives it a completely different vibe. So far, this is what we've got. So back up to the D string, pluck and hammer. And then we're going to do the same thing, but that was like a question, and now we kind of got an answer coming on. So I've reached up for the C sharp note here, really giving it that minor feel as a kind of answer to the sort of vaguely happier question. So the question and the answer sound like this. Back to the D for one round. And then I hit this nice 9 chord, which is really, really cool. Great funky type sound. And that's just 5th fret, 4th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret. So you get the whole thing sounding like this. And again, if you find that hard to play, because it is fairly challenging, just take it nice and steady, nice and slow, take one little piece, repeat it again and again and again. Don't necessarily use a metronome, just kind of find your own natural pace where you can manage it until you bring it up to something that's reasonable, and then try and play it along with a backing track. And that really is the best thing, because you'll never find a band placing a metronome in the seat and going to work. You're much better off with a drummer, and my backing track has a drummer on it. So that's the verse rhythm section. Now I'm going to show you the lead guitar that sits on top of that. So the first thing is I'm using the neck pickup now rather than a bridge pickup, a bit of a warmer, fatter, creamy tone, which means I need more warm, fat, creamy coffee. And it starts with a sweep. We're using Mixolydian mode for the majority of this section. So the sweep is this. It's actually quite an easy sweep. It's only 4 strings. You get A string, this is the 10th fret, 12th fret, D and G, and then 10th fret on the B string, so it's like a symmetrical shape. If you find sweeping difficult, here is my rule of thumb or tip or trick to try and get you there. Imagine that your hand has been zombified, it's dead flesh, and you can't do anything with the hand at all, it's just motionless. And your forearm is alive, and it drives the dead hand. So the pick is grasped, but you don't pick, it's just stationary. So when you're sweeping, you're just driving that dead hand through the strings. You're not trying to pick anything at all. Hold the pick really loose so that the strings don't stick to the plectrum. So if you're learning sweeping, if it's something that interests you, use this part as an exercise, move it around the fretboard. You could try and don't forget, when you can do an exercise, change it, make it harder for you. So if you can do it here, try taking the whole thing down a string, or maybe up a string. It doesn't matter what you do, it's the changing it up, keeping it fresh, that keeps you working your mind and your hand synchronization. So that's the sweep. We'll carry on from there. stay on that last note, let it hang for a bit. We're going to bring the third finger up to the 12th fret, and we're going to play a semitone. Bring that bend back down, pull off to the first finger. We're aiming for a major third, that's my target note. So I'm going 12th fret, bang, target note. So the whole thing sounds like this. I've just kind of realised what I'm doing is I'm picking around this 24th fret area to try and catch the natural harmonics that'll come out of me doing that. You hear that kind of note? It's what happens if you pick on top of 12th fret harmonic away from where you're picking. So I'm picking in the area that would naturally be 12 frets away. So it's a nice tonal concept to use. So that's my question. I think I've got another question coming up, which is... So that's kind of question part 2. I'll break that down a bit for you because it's a little bit complex. So you've got the sweep again, semitone bend, but return it. First finger comes down to the 10th fret E string and I'm going to pluck it. And then I'm going to bend and return again. But then I'm going to pull off to the first finger B string, little finger 12th fret E, pluck, back to that original B string note. And then I'm going to go 12th fret B, and then pull off. So it sounds like this all in one bit. I'll play it one more time nice and slow for you. What I'm doing here is I'm incorporating country guitar concepts into a rock genre. So a typical country lick that would use that kind of thing would be something on a major, that kind of thing, where they bend a note, they pluck notes below it or around it, hold a note up, return it, and I'm doing the same kind of technique or concept, but applying it to rock. So I've stolen a whole gamut of ideas and just put them into a rock genre. You can do that with loads of different styles, whether it be African nasal flute or anything. It's just a good thing to do, steal things, or reappropriate, as one of my friends often said. So here is the whole thing so far with the lead. So the answer to that, I like to think of things in terms of question and answers because it kind of puts it in the right part of my brain. And this is over the A minor, so I'm using D Dorian for this. The answer to that just literally goes... And I've gone back into the D major at the end of the phrase. So, it's a tones bend, 13th fret B string. Again, hold it, shake it. Don't just hold it up there. Nothing should be dead or stationary in music, just like in life. So you hold it and bend it. When you get there, I pluck 12th fret E string, and then I go back to the 13th fret natural note, B string, and then back down 12th fret, same string. So you go. Now I'm going to do an open string to a hammered 12th fret, which sounds really cool. So that's just the open D, hammered onto the 12th fret, and then I'm going to, again, hammer to the, 14th fret G string, and I'm going to bend that note, so it sounds like it. So that's just open, hammer, hammer. There's no picking there. Gives it a nice kind of, the first note's quite dominant, the second note's a bit weaker, and you get this kind of phasing sound that when you're amplified loudly, because this is quite quiet, sounds awesome. We're now going mixo again, so back a semitone. That's my major third target note. So I've semitone, back up again. Second finger comes up, I'm going to flatten down the D and A string, and I'm going to just rake up, sweeping those two notes. Slide down a tone, pull off to the first finger, and that's me pretty much done. So here is that verse as one entirety. There's one little ending kind of full stop that happens after that. I slide forwards, I play an octave. I slide back, I play an octave. So it's the same shape twice. Now that repeats itself in true natural form. That's what most instrumental guitar players do. So the first change to the second time round of the first riff is that rather than just coming back down the question to the major third, I do this alternate picked figure. So it goes like this. And all that is just a choppier way of making it fancy, really. So I've gone down my suite, I play the semitone bend on the 12th fret, put it off, and now I'm going to go up, down, up, down, up, down, semitone back, second finger down, slide it up. So here it is slowly. And I'm really outlining just Mixolydian as a scale there, and I'm just going up, down, up, down, up, down, down, slide it in. It is quite fast. So again, practice that concept any way you want. And you could do it with the pentatonic scale if you want. Anything at all that just has that kind of up feeling, two notes on a string, up, down, up, down, up, down. That's the way I'm picking that. So again, one more time, nice and slow. Rather than doing the octave slide as the full stop, I do a silly picked figure, which sounds like this. This is over the D major and therefore Mixolydian, and what I'm doing is I'm using this scale. And you actually probably might be more familiar using that as a Lydian shape, because a lot of people will use this shape for Lydian. I actually use that as a mixo shape, don't worry. So what I'm doing is I'm picking hammer, hammer, making it a bit easy for myself. So I'm going, and I'm going to come up to the D string, pick that note, come back along the same shape. So here it is, nice and slow for you. Quite a simple idea, isn't it, really? Just going up, hit that note, come back down again, up the next string, and then repeat that string again, and then first finger comes down, slide it into the target major third. See what I'm going for there? So here it is again, nice and slow, and then I'll speed it up for you. This is an awesome exercise in economy picking. So the verse is now finished. We're going to go back to the intro, which is kind of like our chorus section now. So once you've gone around the chorus riff and done that part, we chop into a lead part that comes out and turns into a bridge. So here's what happens. I've done. Now, I would go back into that riff again, but instead, the rhythm guitar is going to do that for me. I'm going to be... So here I'm using little dyads, some sliding. It's kind of country southern technique, I suppose, again, incorporated into blues rock. And this is mostly mixo. So G string, 7th fret, I pick it, I put it off. I'm then going down to the D string, and this is the 10th fret. I put it off, 9th fret, and then I hammer back down to 10, and first finger up to the 8th fret, and I get a dyad. So this is what it sounds like. One more time, full volume and slow. So if that was a question, then the answer is just to come with the first finger down a string, bring my second finger down to the G string, and take this little dyad up a tone. So you go, and that's pick on the G, slide both of them, pluck on the E. So that whole figure sounds like this. Then I'll do it again. But when I get to here, I'm going to come down a scale. So the scale looks like this. And all I'm doing is playing a pattern of 4 coming up that scale. So I'm playing 4 from the first note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 from the second note, 4 from the third note, and then land on. And now the bridge section, which I've sometimes improvised. It's essentially just based in mix. So what is that? Well, down to this G string 4th fret. That's one pick, and then it's hammer, hammer, pull off, hammer. I've gone back a tone. I'm following exactly the same scale. So the scale looks like. So all I'm doing is attacking each string with a little finger and then doing a series of pulls and hammers. So this is what it looks like. Do that again, nice and slow for you. So attack with the little finger, this is just a hammer, pull off to the first. The harmonic 12 frets above that note. So the whole phrase sounds like this. Again, that's hard. I find that hard, especially live. I tend to improvise it, to be honest. It's just a series of repetitive patterns that I've practiced and rehearsed in that scale. Moving onwards, more caffeinated beverage. So now it's the verse section all over again. The one difference is that I'm now beginning to incorporate a blues concept into the A minor part the second time we play the verse lick. And then you're back into the regular. All that just comes after it as net regular. So you see where it went in. This is the lick in isolation. So it's a good old-fashioned, Common Garden Rock of Ages type lick. Please take note that I'm picking and then plucking and plucking rather than pick, pick, pick. So after the preliminary lick, which goes, I play a second, one of my other favourite licks, which is. So that's just a bend, 13th fret B string, up to the natural note on the 10th fret E string, and then pick and then off on the B string. So you've got 2 licks there. You've got number 1, number 2. And then to kind of end that, I'm going to go 13th fret on the E string, and I'm going to very slightly nudge it up to kind of hint towards the major third and the Mixolydian origin. And once I've nudged it up to that major third, I'm coming right back down the blues scale, incorporating the flattened 5th. So here's the lick, nice and slow, and then I'll speed it up. Now we finish off part 2 of the verse, and there's a different ending to it. So it goes. So what I'm doing there is I'm just coming down, using legato, a Mixolydian shape. I'll try and get it for you slow, but I always improvise it, so it may be slightly out. It doesn't really matter. See if you can find your own pathway through it. We'll probably tab it as best as we can to the way I recorded it in the original tune. In fact, I'm pretty sure that is exactly what I do. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. So now it's back into that chorus. All of that gubbins, and now we're into the first solo. This is quite an easy solo. It's a really good study in blues. Just starts off with some nice kind of dual bending using fourths. Now what you might notice is that I'm using licks I've already had in the song. I'm kind of harking back to the storyline that I've previously used. So it starts off with just this dual bend. I'm in D minor blues really. So then 12th fret, 10, and then back to that dual bend, and then to answer it I'm just going to go, which is the root. So pull out blues lick we used in part 2 of our verse. Do the same beginning to the solo again. And now we're going to pull out another country kind of inspired concept. This time we're going to bend up, hold it, pluck with the first finger and retain both those notes and then lower them. Up to the G string, bend and return, pull off, down to the D string, bar against the D and the G, pluck the G, and then off to the first finger. So the whole thing sounds like this, nice and slow. So far, this is what you've got. So now I'm going to slide down the scale and use this open D string as like a pedal point kind of idea. Here it is, nice and slow. So here it is to speed. And I'm doing sort of the classic bend a note and hold a high one. On the return I'm plucking both of them to get that dissonance. Then we come down to my favourite lick of all time in this tune, which is kind of a hybrid picked country type southern thing. So the way that works is this: I'm just using as many open strings as possible, lots of rolling kind of banjo type concepts, 4th to 5th on the D, and then the open G. That is a banjo thing. So just, and then back to where you came. Then the same idea really on the A string. So I'm pick, hammer, pluck the G. Pull off, and then 3rd fret on that C sharp. Now we're at the good old big solo, so the drums do this kind of flangey thing, and it just goes, which I like. And then we go into the solo. Now the solo is always improvised. I'll try and play it as best as I can in keeping with the recording. So here it goes. So that's how I play my solo. It's always improvised, always in D blues with a bit of mixolydian and some outside notes. Follow the tablature as best you can, but I would encourage you to improvise this solo. It's really meant to be improvised. You want that off the cuff type of feel. But here's the beginning of the solo for you to kind of get you started. So we start with a stinger, and I take it up a tone. Keeping that shape, I just pick the G, slide the whole thing back, I pluck the B, slide the whole thing back. So you get this. Now I really reappropriated that from Billy Gibbons. It's just an awesome, awesome lick, and it's the same shape, and I'm using it 4 times. Then I come down the scale and incorporate this kind of, it's a diab with a major twist, so I'm going. Then I come up the scale and do this lick. Get to this kind of major third, and I come down this outside note pattern. And then that's all she wrote, really. So just practice this part. And then fly from there on, take it away, and make it your own. I hope that was useful. Again, if you found any part confusing, difficult, don't worry about it. Take it easy, chop it up into bits, take it separately, enjoy yourself. That's the most important thing, is just to enjoy it. If you find a particular part that you like, just drill it, drill it, and drill it, and then steal it, make it your own, tweak it. I have been Rob Chapman from Chapman Guitars and Monkey Fest. You guys take it easy. Chappers out.